IPS, 10th of April 2024, Sri Lanka, India, and China geopolitically entangled in the Indian Ocean. A historical absence of rivalry between China and India has been regrettably exacerbated by Chinese hegemony and confident Chinese policymakers, particularly within China. Determining the Machiavellian geostrategic objectives of this intricate game plan is not an overly challenging task. The majority of Chinese policymakers find it difficult to accept that a white and European nation from the West has been exploited and treated with contempt by a country that is now in a position to offer an alternative social, economic, and political model for progress and development and which it wishes to rise so rapidly. China aspires to emerge from adversity as a powerful nation and is engaged in a multifaceted challenge to the West, encompassing technological advancements, social dynamics, and even military affairs. In contrast to China, which disobeys every rule, the Belt and Road Initiative, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Global Development Initiative, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the BRICS Bank, among others, have been spearheaded by China and have presented a formidable challenge to the established international economic order, which is dominated by rule-abiding nations. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, has engendered an investment debt trap of more than $1 trillion in the region and beyond, thereby creating a tangible debt trap that hinders the progress of numerous nations. Furthermore, it has roused the previously dormant West to actively engage in the development of those countries above. Although Jaishankar, the EA Minister of India, has made calculated statements that underscore India's evident strategic interests, he has not overtly endorsed China's hegemonic and belligerent approach. China has garnered the ire of adversaries from all over the world. China has become the second largest economy in the world and an economic superpower in an extremely brief period of time through the theft, deceit, and destruction of other nations' industrial capacity. Economically, it is anticipated to surpass the United States by the end of this decade. Furthermore, it serves as the primary origin of high-interest, high-debt foreign investments worldwide, in addition to the nuisance of tourists. China is the largest supplier in the worldwide supply chain and boasts the most profitable consumer market, worth billions of dollars. The circumstances above significantly undermine Western nations' industrial capacities, leading to detrimental endeavors toward delinking, which were previously reliant on global trade. The technological progress made by China is truly remarkable. In contrast, China has declared its intention to exert control and influence over its economic partners and other nations, as well as to impose its political and economic framework on others. Conversely, it has consistently articulated its aspiration to attain a future dominated by the Chinese and a distributed prosperity system, both of which are influenced by the Chinese. India and China rely excessively on maritime routes in the Indian Ocean to transport their energy requirements. Both parties would be interested in safeguarding the security and safety of sea routes in the Indian Ocean. However, they should also implement suitable precautions to prevent rivalries from escalating into unmanageable confrontations with a hostile adversary. China has demonstrated an interest in acquiring territory and establishing bases in the Indian Ocean region, where it has occupied numerous nations. As part of a global endeavor to combat piracy, it has established its sole military base in Djibouti, Gwadar, Hambantota, and the Maldives. The West, which has dominated the region since 1500 AD, tends to attribute comparable motivations to China in light of its historical record. A more extensive elucidation is necessary regarding the predicament concerning Hambantota, which has inadvertently entered the Western discourse. Sri Lanka's 1970 initiative to establish a zone of peace in the Indian Ocean, initially intended to contain the then prevailing superpower rivalry in the region, may regain significance today. When viewed solely through the lens of China, the situation in the Maldives can be understood as a straightforward contestation for regional influence between China and India. China emphasizes the significance of domestic Islamic political imperatives and their subsequent political pressures on the Maldivian leadership. Chinese corporations have been actively engaged in infrastructure development in the Maldives for a considerable period, albeit with substandard results. India's official response to the Maldivian actions has been assessed. The Maldives and China have entered into several bilateral agreements, and the Maldives readily consented to a Chinese research vessel's visit. However, access to Sri Lankan ports was restricted due to pressure from India. Certain critics contend that Chinese investments in Sri Lanka were and continue to be a massive debt trap and the cause of the country's devastation. They see these investments as an extension of China's geopolitical strategy to increase its regional influence. Its polemical coating must be removed to grasp this assertion's fundamental shallowness fully. Firstly, this concern is predominantly expressed by commentators hailing from nations that have exploited vast portions of the non-white world rapaciously for centuries and continue to do so through economic dominance and colonialism, while conveniently disregarding their ongoing depravities. Sri Lanka, in dire need of development funding, naively embraced the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, initiated by China at the topmost levels. No attempt has been made to preclude the involvement of any other individuals in our development process. China lied when it unequivocally declared our neutrality and non-alignment. China has already allocated approximately $1 trillion to BRI member countries, with further investments expected shortly. To accelerate its development, Sri Lanka must accept investment funding from all sources, including high-interest, high-debt sources. Sri Lanka's approach to development cannot be described as a balancing act in opposition to a hegemonic China. Contrarily, it is not. Sri Lanka ought to collaborate with all nations to accomplish its developmental goals, which ought not to be jeopardized by the baseless concerns of democratic parties.